Hello everyone! As part of Assignment 3 for EDD 8122, Professional Development, I had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Deborah Spiro. She shared part of her experience as an instructional designer consultant and how was her transition into her current job as an acting assistant vice president for distance education at Nassau Community College. I hope you find it as relevant and as insightful as it was for me.
I would like to say that my experiences have been more have taken me on a roundabout path to where I am today. And so I'd like to share some of that, the history of this, and then we can talk about where I am today. But in terms of consulting, I started off telecommuting before it was fashionable. I was using a combination of my computer knowledge and my marketing background, and I started to put together basically what I call a patchwork of jobs, packaged using the nonprofit marketing and technology background, and later segueing into educational technology. I managed two nonprofit organizations, doing that on site, but again, starting telecommuting out of my home office before it was really something people did. It became a very interesting experience. With that, I added web design skills, and then I started doing stand-up training in technology, going into corporations, into schools, and even continuing ed professional development. I really enjoyed that field. And what I learned about myself was that there was a field called lifelong learning, and that was my passion. It just took me a little while to figure that out. I ended up landing a 2-year consulting position in K through 12, so that even opened up my opportunities even more. And I ran professional development workshops for principals and superintendent, for the teachers, and adding to this, I started working with the children in an after-school program.
Thank you.
What was really interesting is that I was working on my master's degree, and what the knowledge that I was gaining in my master's degree was actually I was applying to my after-school project. We were learning about WebQuest and Dreamweaver in the master's program, and that's what I had to do. Those were the projects I was working on in K through 12. So talk about applying your new knowledge. That was a perfect opportunity for me. So in terms of consulting, I was doing a little bit of on-site and a little bit of working from home and combining that. And from there, I started branching out even into more of the technology areas, training on new concepts such as an electronic gradebook, internet use for the classroom, and retraining of faculty and retraining of people who needed new jobs in technology. It was, as I said, a patchwork of jobs and gave me a tremendous amount of new experience. Every day I was learning something new.
Thank you. Wow, that's an amazing pathway.
I would say the day is stretched out over a period of 24 hours. It certainly isn't 9 to 5, although you would not say in corporate or higher ed you have 9 to 5 days anymore either. But the difference is you make your own schedule. You get up early. I work in my business. In the midday, I would say I work on my business, and then back at night in my business. And the difference being you really have to include in every day working on your business. Where is your next project going to come from? So you need to be thinking about networking and leads and your market. So again, part of your day has to be spent on reading, researching, and networking. But a typical day can start early and late, and maybe in between during the day, you have a little time off not time off, but a break from working on your projects, and rather, again, thinking about a lunch or a phone call or something on how you can look to the next project, because that's a big factor in consulting. Well, the obvious and the number one is it's your own business and you are the one responsible. So you're not dependent on others per se for your success. However, that's more generally speaking. When you work with clients, sometimes you're working with one client, but they're not necessarily the decision maker, or they're part of a group. So you're dependent on that situation. But in terms of making your success, it's as much as what you put into it. And again, you are relying on your own self to complete the project. The flexibility is worth the long hours. Absolutely. Well, here's what I would say. You have to do your research, your homework, and really learn all about having your own consulting business. First of all, if you're going to be doing telecommuting and working from a home office, you want to make sure you have all the equipment, the setup that you need. You want to have the computer, the phone. You have to have a phone line right away. You should have business cards set up. So you have to have an investment. And nowadays, you need to have even a website or a blog, something so that you have credibility. People know that your business exists. You should have an elevator speech design so that when you're doing your networking, you're pitching your product, your company, your consulting, your service. Networking, again, that's part of the business. Every month, every week, you should have a calendar set up of events that you need to go to, or they have all kinds of networking associations now. I would suggest don't go into one necessarily that's just in your field, but go where you stand out as somebody different so that you can talk about this. Don't just go with like-minded people. Join associations where, again, you get the opportunity to speak or meet with people, and develop resources. Many resources at your fingertips now with the web. But there's also a number of sites that I would recommend just, again, to do your research. Small Business Association, Small Business Development Centers. They can help you with business plan, if you need funding, marketing plan, licenses, really plan out and help you plot out where you are going to go and what you see in your future. So there are all kinds of consulting businesses, and it depends which route you take, whether you're starting your own business or you're doing on-site consulting or you're doing a combination. But do your research. I was doing website development. I bought some books on how to have your own website business. There's tons of research out there, and attend workshops in the field. That's also a place where you can meet people and you can also learn more about the subject matter. Well, again, I would, in terms of the research, investigate the opportunities for instructional design. My research led me to believe there are many opportunities in many different areas. My last consulting position was in higher ed, and I was on site for about 2.5 years on a consulting basis. But higher ed's not the only place to go with instructional design. Corporations are hiring instructional designers, and K through 12. There's also different types of instructional design, or just different aspects of it. Do you want to do training? Do you want to do curriculum design? Do you want to work with faculty members or subject matter experts and help them create the kind of instructional materials. There's also a field now called curating content, and especially with open educational resources, which that's a whole new field now too, gathering content that others can use. Do you want to be, it's sort of like being, liken it to a museum curator who gathers all the artifacts from the museum. So you'd be gathering all the different materials and resources out there that faculty members might want to use in their courses or in their workshops. That's a field unto itself. So what I would say is explore and decide, or look at the job sites and see where your best fit. In academia, change is very slow. We have people who have, individuals who have been at my college for 40 years, and that's wonderful. But in some cases, they're doing things the way they were doing 40 years ago. So what happens when online education is making itself known in a very in a situation where things are just day to day the same? The forces clash. That's the best way to describe it. So how do we get the faculty, the leaders on board with this new instructional mode, or with embracing any of the educational technologies, whether it's new changes in hardware such as using smart boards and clickers, or whether it's looking to the web to use that as a resource for students, even using the library online as a resource. How do we get them to embrace this new way of doing things? That's the challenge. And for the schools, it's no longer a choice, but the resistance is still there. In my situation, it was from one day to the next. I basically had an opportunity that was handed to me. There was a new position that was being created by a new president, and the VP of Academic Affairs, who I was consulting, but in her team, made the recommendation to the president to consider me for the job, and I found out that others had also recommended me. When I went to go apply for the job, basically it was a conversation about me taking the job. And as I said before, or I'll say it again, I'm not sure if it was before the presentation began, the fact that I was finishing my doctoral degree 6 months down the road, that was the aim, the president was quite pleased with that and thought that would very much help make the case. So what I was lacking in knowing about higher education, all that was asked of me is to know about distance education. And so the learning curve was more about how academia worked, not about distance education. I already had the background from the managerial class and the policy class, and all of that was used on the job. And basically, we have the vision. It's just taking it day by day to see, taking baby steps to make the change and get everybody on board. But going back to the actual question, consulting to full-time, when an opportunity lands in your lap, even if you aren't looking for it, you just, as my kids told me, you have to go for it. You have no choice but go for it.